Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world you are tuned into Speed Gaming Prime for yet another Link to the Past Randomizer League Season 3, Week 3, Casual Boot Seed. I am Eudaimonistic, joined today by Ben Creighton. Ben, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm watching the sunrise through my window. It's very early where I am, but that's the lovely thing about Link to the Past Randomizer. It is a truly global community. So wherever you may be, good morning, good afternoon, and in case I don't see you, good night.
That's the Truman Show reference I was hoping someone would pick up on. I like that.
Heck yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. We've got Last Locationers versus Team... Is it Team Hime today?
That's my assumption.
Last Locationers, one of the strongest teams in this absolutely stacked Invitational League. Linlinlin versus Kermit. I'm excited. I might not sound it, but that's just because I need more coffee.
Hey, we'll build the excitement throughout the rest of this race. And as you mentioned, a very strong Last Locationers team. They are poised to take a commanding presence in their division, the Lost Woods division. They are currently at the top, and this is the second race between the two teams this week, and their previous race was actually yesterday. An unfortunate scenario where Team Hime's representative, Dragonstrike, actually had his power go out, and so he kind of had to, forfeit the race. Hopefully something a little bit more, neck and neck competitive here, as it was a really interesting seed to watch. It looks like we'll get started here. And this is, of course, Casual Boots, so we will actually have the Rain State standard sequence with a couple of twists.
Yes, indeed. This standard start has fallen a little bit out of favor, but as a viewer, I really like seeing these two runners in sync in the beginning, seeing a direct comparison between their execution before things open up. And we've got an early map check on Kermit's side. I saw two pendants.
Yeah, and Linlinlin will give us a second look. Looks like crystal number 6 is going to be at Eastern as well, and neither of those pendants are green.
I believe if Kermit is able to pull out the victory here, that will be his first win of this third league season.
That is correct. Currently at an 0-2 start, one of those two losses having been the first week co-op, the other having been, I believe it was last week. So looking to get on the board, whereas Linlinlin currently 1-0, so this is just the second race of the season for them.
Yes, indeed. As I recall, I commentated his first race of the season. Absolutely phenomenal runner. You always see him in the top 5 of the ALTTPR ladder. I believe he's sitting at number 3 right now. So definitely some world-class Link to the Past we're about to see here today.
Yeah, and even to dovetail off of that, looking at like racetime.gg, one of the top 15 players, I think, on the leaderboards there. Kind of a not truly matured leaderboard system just yet with the ranking, but still, with 60 races on the board, really indicative of the kind of caliber of play we're talking about here. So as a reminder to those of you who are tuning in who may not have seen the rest of the matches this week, or maybe haven't even followed this format in a while, Casual Boots is a boot start with an assured sword. We actually have it right from the get-go, but you don't see it active until you get to the uncle. So actually, an interesting thing is you can actually dash through those bushes on the way to the castle, even though you don't see a sword.
Yes, indeed. This is considered one of the more casual modes. Gives you some of those convenience items right up front, and it makes life a little easier in this standard escape sequence. Don't have to worry about farming a bomb. You'll be able to get into that backside escape with those boots.
Well, speaking of farming a bomb, Kermit actually did manage to find one off of a enemy, which is kind of handy because every bomb you can get, even though you don't need it for the back half of the escape, is always something that makes Kakariko a little bit more friendly. There are some that we actually can't bonk open.
Absolutely. It's pretty... Doing the escape sequence, it's pretty uncommon to get all the way to Kakariko without finding a bomb somewhere, but it's nice to be able to check that off your list early. Just one less thing to worry about.
And plus, we even got 50 rupees, so if things really got drastic or desperate, it's a quick dash over to the shop that has them in Kakariko. Although someone may consider going somewhere else, actually, saving and quitting back to Link's house. Surprisingly common strategy in this week.
Yeah, if you do have that early bomb, it's not a terrible idea to head to Link's house, maybe do some South Shore, see if there's any love in Mini Moldorm. Just for that little bit of early divergence, just that chance that you might find that slight early edge over your opposition.
Another thing that we've been seeing a whole lot of this week is a whole ton of water walking, sequence breaking, with the boots, at our disposal. Quite easy to do so, and it's made the sequence break into the water checks a lot more popular. But we're maybe a bit ahead of ourselves talking about that. After all, we do have the rest of the escape sequence here, and it is bombs aplenty for Linlinlin.
Well rewarded for taking a break to kill some snakes, which not a whole lot else to be excited about in this escape sequence so far. Whole lot of 10 arrow drops, stuff like that.
Yeah, in an ideal situation, most of these runners in the league will be shooting for something like maybe a 5:10 or 5:15 escape. If all things transpire well and we do some optimal movement. Kind of likely that we don't see that for most runners, though, even though they kind of want to aim for that, as there are a lot of little small variances to the escape that you don't really practice with boots.
And with just a couple more rupees in the backside of escape, we don't have to worry about paying the turban merchant, but that's about all we can say positively about this escape sequence.
And addressing a question in chat about how the light cone works, we do not have the lamp, although in standard modes of any variety, you will be given a free one as you do the escape sequence. Looks like Kermit has realized that there is no map in this escape, so this chest at the sanctuary must be a map, and that is a time save over Linlinlin.
One of those other weird little quirks of casual boots, this bonk rocks, guaranteed to be accessible from the beginning, which can affect some decision making a little later when you're deciding whether to route in King's Tomb, Graveyard Ledge, other checks in this area. It's just one less thing to think about a little later on.
Yeah, and it really does help section off some of these checks, as having to do a whole extra mirror in order to preserve, say, the Dark World access when you're coming over Northern Hyrule and Dark World. If you're going to try and do all those things in one fell swoop, having the boots really early makes that simpler.
And a little bit of divergence, Kermit finding the fire rod in the Lost Woods as Linlinlin gives us a look at Lumberjack.
That would appear to be just a single arrow. Short of an unusual batch of fletchery, we should not need to be killing Aghanim for that reason, at least. So I'm actually kind of surprised to see that Linlinlin, after killing the first crab early on accident, didn't bother to check the second one. Perhaps going to save that for when we do South Shore. Alrighty, well, the choice to not check not Sahaza, the tree is actually going to give Kermit an early berth into Kakariko proper, and we have the Thieves' Hut giving us a Power Glove, and not too much else just yet. And here's another one of those early water walks. Oh my goodness. Ben, how often do you see people skip Kakariko for Ice Rod Cave? I mean, what's the margin here?
For Ice Rod Cave specifically, that would be the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, in recent memory, I don't recall. And there's a mirror there for Kermit as well, so not an important thing just yet, but a lot of the benefit of doing this, I mean, is there a benefit? It's one location. You were probably going to do it in a minute anyway. I guess we're going to do water checks.
Now, honestly, the better find for Kermit may have been those giant 300 rupee drops, because when he makes this same play, he will have the option of routing in King Zora.
Yeah, and truly completing the entire loop. We'll at least get to see what's in the, well, never mind, correct me immediately. There's those flippers, but Linlinlin I thought was going to check the island, so Kermit can now do all of these checks in logic.
And that is the flute in the fairy fountain. So that's the advantage to doing this early. Now when Linlinlin makes his way to the village, he'll be able to turn in that flute on the same trip, and it looks like we will get an island check as well from him. Just a heart container.
It's a bit unconventional to take the water walk back into the whirlpool, but I actually do really like that because the hobo is such a slow check no matter what you're doing. We do know, thanks to that mirror, that by the time we can get to East Dark World, there would be a faster version. But you can't, hedge that bet. And a little bit of safety to be rewarded with. So I have to wonder what's going through Linlinlin's head, whether this is like a research decision against Kermit, or if this is maybe just trying to play the weirdest scenario to try to get the largest possible lead. Like, to me, this seems like a focused strategy against this opponent.
Very well could be. Could also be as simple a matter of you take a big gamble early and you have some idea of where you're at. If it pays off, you feel real good, you can relax a little. If it doesn't, you know it's time to tighten up your game and try and make it up on execution, which is certainly something that Lin's capable of.
And perhaps another way to look at this too, this could be kind of like the scholar's play. Maybe we're trying to read into 6 or 7 different logical implications when we go out of sequence. And that may be something that informs the entire rest of the exploration. Could also be I just don't watch enough rando. Alright, well, down to Mini Moldorm Cave, we did not see Kermit come through here just yet, and this will extend almost certainly into the water checks. That is a Quake Medallion, as we see a flute activation from Linlinlin. Now, what to do with that flute? I'm not saying the mountain's the thing, but certainly an option.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a terrible play. Early on, you unlock that old man save and quit spot. That can save you a little time over the course of a run.
Yeah, because we know with this mirror here, that becomes a lot more appealing than it would have otherwise been. Alright, well, Kermit leaving the cave, setting up a water walk near certain confirmation that we're at least going to see the entire Zora area here. However, that could instead terminate in the hobo choice that we saw Linlinlin save and quit from as well, so we'll get a moment here to actually see that for ourselves. Wow, what happened to the block maze? It's just gone.
We didn't need those blocks.
Blocks are merely a suggestion.
Blocks are an illusion sent by Satan. Don't believe in them. They're not real.
It's like a superposition thing, where like if you observe the moving block, it disappears. If you don't, it's there. Well, that's my first glimpse at the island, just a heart container. It looks like we're going to get a little bit of a high five through a whirlpool. Not quite a wormhole, but interestingly enough, kind of similar. Well, despite the things that I kind of thought early on, Linlinlin actually going to be the first one to head over to Zora by a small margin, but both of them.
Ooh, and Kermit opting to save and quit rather than grabbing that, what turns out to be a shield from Zora.
That's so bizarre. I can't even explain that. A lot of rupees to work with. Maybe we're just trying to preserve them in case we do find a Dark World access and want to do everything that you need money for.
Even then, he has enough to spare to go to Pod if he needed to. Even after paying the 500 to Zora, I have to think that was probably just an error.
I mean, we even saw Kermit skip the 300 outside of the dam. Well, very little faith in our amphibian trading friends, so we're going to rely on an avian friend instead. Kermit activating that flute blocked behind the flippers, I believe, in Waterfall Cave. We'll get to see the first strike at using that flute, as Linlinlin heading to Mini Moldorm Cave. No reason to use it at this point.
Kermit opting to head into the desert, check the ledge, and rather than continue to Agina, opts to peace out. Looks like we might see what's in Sage's closet.
I really do like that scout. It's a very fast check to make. It's information for later. We don't have the access to it, but you would know immediately if it was something critical. Well, 3 more item locations here. We do have the ability to save our 10 stack of bombs since dashing's pretty fast. It almost seems like Kermit's trying to be a rich man today. Listen, it's really hard to code in a 4th digit to that rupee counter, and he wants to make sure the devs feel rewarded for it.
Exactly. It's looking more and more like Mountain is the play. It's coming down to either that or maybe an Eastern dip. Kermit's opting for the Mountain, navigating that dark room, since, as you mentioned before, that free light cone in the escape, don't get used to it. We'll need the lamp if we want any more of those.
Good news is, of course, here in the Invitational League, very few runners are going to have much difficulty with these dark rooms. We're even seeing a little bit of quick swap menu management out of Kermit here, and looks to be completely clear. And another high five, actually. Do you think the old men high five too?
You know what? I think they're... It's early. They haven't had their coffee yet either. I think it's low 5 only from the old man. You know,
Yeah.
Conserve your energy for later in the day.
Chat having their own ideas as well. This mirror only gives us one direction to go, though. Spectacle Rock, the actual top of it being absolutely nothing. A bottle of green potion. Potentially something that we would just grab, but Kermit's actually going to skip it. So the potential of Sick Kid up in the air.
We're getting our first look at the Dark World map, our number 5 Crystalline Pod and Green Pendant in Thieves Town. I sort of like that move. That's a long way to walk for a bottle. And it's easy enough to get back there once you're done with Tower of Hera if that doesn't wind up giving you any kind of progression.
And perhaps Kermit's hoping that, you know, Linlinlin will also turn that into the namesake of the team, make that a last location or move. And as it turns out, didn't go and get the bottle, so, I mean, would not have been a bad guess.
Ooh, and there's our Moon Pearl, French Vanilla, in the second check of Hera. Meanwhile, Lynn showing that Kermit was right to skip Agina, just 20 bucks in there.
Petition to rename this dungeon Tower of Paradox.
Don't you mean Heradox Tower?
You know, that is absolutely the superior name. Hands down. Hands up?
Hands up now, hands down.
And we will absolutely not have an opportunity for a Harry Potter or anything of the sort. No hook shot to work with, so an entire climb and probably dropping down as well. Even though the bomb jump's not super awful, when you're in a competitive 1v1 format, it feels pretty risky to do.
Yeah, it definitely saves you a little time, but it costs you so much more if you should happen to miss it.
Well, speaking of bomb jumps that are difficult or easy depending on your perspective on them overall, Linlinlin pulling it off to save some time off of that green potion pickup. So we'll likely end up seeing that sick hit sooner than later once we're done here on the first trip of the mountain.
Yes, indeed. And in comparison to the Hera big chest bomb jump, that one's pretty free, because even if you miss it, well, you're right where you would have been anyway. Might as well try.
I hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, NMG Nightmares Revisited. 6 slashes for this Moldorm fight, actually feeling like a boss at this point.
Beautiful dash to finish him off, though, just as he was getting angry and starting to move fast. And there's our hammer.
Whoa.
That'll be our Dark World access.
And rest of mountain access, actually, which is interesting enough.
Yeah, that is stacked Hera today.
So nobody feels great about going into a Pendant Hera, but not going to leave anything behind either, I don't think, unless there was a... wasn't the key locked behind itself?
I believe so. In any case, we found Hammer, found Moon Pearl. Those are our 2 items to be found in Hera.
Yeah, so plenty of other more fun things to do, and that is another mail upgrade there on the floating island. So I doubt either runner picks that up, but if we end up health starved at an important juncture, maybe. You know, I really hate Spiral Cave a lot less in this particular game mode. And there's that less commonly seen bomb jump this week. You know, it's not like it's super difficult, but a lot of people have been avoiding it.
I mean, I avoid it, but then I'm in the open league. What do I know?
Can relate. And honestly, the last 5 times I've tried it, I've definitely fallen.
Yeah, I say, what do I know? I know not to try that bomb jump in a race.
Yeah, we saved those for NMG. Alright, so a Master Sword here in the top of Paradox Cave, with an unfortunate fall for Linlinlin. Meanwhile, the denser part of Paradox Cave, paradoxically having very little in terms of item density that we need. So that'll be it for Kermit here on the light side of the Death Mountain. Don't really have access to the dark side of the mountain, or the Dark World Death Mountain, until we have Titan Smiths, so we're out of there. Surviving a tense moment, Linlinlin going to find his hammer as well, and will almost certainly do the same things we just saw from Kermit. So, despite some of the weirdness of the early routing, they are still chasing after each other. Not a whole lot of separation, other than you know, this completion of Death Mountain.
Yep, the big difference at this point is Lin has that bottle, so when they follow in Kermit's footsteps and head back to the village, they'll be able to check Bottle Boy and see if that move paid off.
Well, with all of those things completed, finally heading into the Dark World proper, Kermit's going to choose Skullwoods first. A wise choice, I would say, just because we have that Fire Rod. I'm going to check the front, which has been a little bit less commonly seen when you have the means to kill the boss. Finding that key is going to leave and probably drop back down, but I've been more wrong about things lately. Yeah, I am wrong.
I'm definitely a believer that if you haven't been in Skull yet, if you have that Fire Rod, just do the backside first. That's 2 checks. You get lucky. You never have to set foot into the front at all. Especially with the mirror, which makes that lobby chest just a little bit faster.
So I kind of wonder if the choice to grab that one chest, that one location that's most accessible for the front of Skullwoods, is maybe an attempt to hedge the bet that one of those two items might be there, and then say if it's on Mothula, you never come back. You save a lot of time over opponents.
That's true. It's a reasonably quick chest to just dip in there and grab. So not a bad move by any means.
And hey, it's a key, so a little more time saved in this room. Well, with a little bit of patience, that's 5 hearts.
Yep. Also, a fire rod shot saved, which for a relatively low percent moth fight, that's not nothing.
Yeah, and if nothing else, even if not for the damage, just to be able to pull them off of the wall, as that's kind of really important when those spikes negate all damage.
Very nice moth fight. Kermit taking down that moth for just a compass. Still 2 items to be found in Skullwoods. But that's our first crystal of the seed, 24 minutes and 20 seconds in.
And it looks like Linlinlin won't be dovetailing off of Kermit's routing here. Going to opt right for Hype Cave with much more density and definitely a Titan's Mitts in the front.
That is a great find in Hype Cave. That lets you come up to the village from the south side, making checks all the way along the way.
And hey, even if it's the only find in Hype Cave outside of some cash, definitely the sort of thing that routing benefits greatly from.
Absolutely. If you're only finding one progression item in Hype Cave, I can't think of a single item I would rather see in there, especially when I've decided to make that check first with my Dark World access.
So with the mirror at his disposal, Linlinlin has a pretty clear-cut path to go through the rest of the Western Dark World. We'll be able to do almost everything except for the Smith Chain, and that can be done immediately after if he wishes. I got a little confused there watching Kermit try to push the statue. I think he was trying to get it lined up so that the frog sprite wouldn't nudge the walls, as that's extremely slow. Yeah, that's a pretty convenient heart piece healing him there as well. So that's one item. I don't think we've seen the other yet.
I believe you're correct. Meanwhile, Lin giving us a look at Dig Game. And a third sword.
A quick look at Dig Game.
Yes, it's called Dig Game, not Dig's Game. Only one dig necessary today.
You're absolutely right about that. And it may be a little more expensive, but I mean, that's a lot faster than rescuing the frog. While striking metal immediately with metal will lead us over to test our metal here at the Peg Cave. This is a whole lot of things to do if you don't have boots. Much nicer to do, and maybe this is where the casual part of boots really feels good. Or maybe feels more casual. We will bring him in there with us and then do all of these checks except for the powder. Wow.
And that's a hook shot in our Peg Cave. Linlinlin just finding all the good stuff.
And Kermit's mushroom pole here from Skull Woods will be the only remaining item. Now, there's no real convenient way to get out, so thankfully having the keys to do so, we'll just walk out the front door here. So if only we had a Cane of Samaria, we might see... Well, actually, it needs the Titan's Mitts, but that would be a potential fake powder. We're not going to see that unless some really weird stuff happens. Instead, we're going to see the northern checks. So, yeah, we need the cape. Cape required. That's an ice rod. Okay, there's that cane, too.
Ooh, I was just about to say, has to be tempting to skip this lunchbox with the rest of Dark Village left to do. But Lin's glad he didn't.
Well, this is making this is kind of shaping up to be an extremely fast seed. If we find just a couple more items, we're absolutely going to require a bow. We're not sure yet what we need as far as medallions go. We could potentially have the only one we need. And since we do know where that ice rod is, it's just a matter of finding the cape after that. We should be able to, with everything else we have, be able to do pretty much everything else.
And Kermit doing Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb the slow way without Titan's Mitts, finding a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, that's the least fun way to have to do that. I mean, it's such a roundabout to get up there, and then, you know, if it doesn't have anything, you just feel real awful about it. Speaking of feeling awful about things, are we about to see a catfish check from Kermit?
It certainly seems that way.
Ah, mushroom.
A
little bit of swag hookshot clip from Linlinlin there going through the spike as he picks up his mushroom as well.
And Kermit certainly does seem to want to bank as many rupees as he possibly can, stopping to pick up those 50 bucks.
See, the part about that confuses me is, like, he's not going to spend them because he didn't even take a bottle. Of course, I could be proved immediately wrong, and it could end up being a thing where we check Zora now. And if so, then this was, despite scouting out the ledge earlier, a pretty efficient combo.
It's occurring to me that we've had both of our runners circling in and around the Dark Village area ever since getting Dark World access, but I don't believe we've seen C-shaped house or chest game or any of that stuff, let alone even a dip into Thieves Town. It is a pendant dungeon, but with green pendant and being able to check first 4 pretty easily, it's a little surprising.
There has certainly been an apparent bias against Thieves Town that's pendant from a lot of runners in this league that I've noticed, at least in the last few races I've watched. But Linlinlin today, ignoring Kakariko for quite a while, ignoring Village of Outcasts. Perhaps it's just the fact that we had the Fire Rod for this Skull Woods for a really nice Mothula fight. It's hard for me to explain it too. I'm not sure.
Ooh, and Kermit apparently deciding that he should not have skipped that bottle. We know from Lin's side that that bottle's going to get him a whole lot of nothing when he goes to turn it into Bottle Boy.
I mean, at the bare minimum, that is a nice safety, a thing you kind of want to have anyway. Why not? But we're definitely going to see the sick kid first. That's absolutely certain at this point.
Yeah, that's... Not sure how I feel about the decision to make a mountain climb just for that one item.
I should stop making predictions, but we will end up seeing the sick kid because this will eventually chain into Village of Outcasts and Kakariko, provided Kermit doesn't forget with all of the things he's about to do.
Meanwhile, Lin going for the Ice Palace play. That is a full clearable crystal dungeon.
Yeah.
And with that red cane, that's going to make it a lot quicker.
I had a feeling that that may have been the reason. I mean, with the hookshot, you have the logic to do so, or do the dungeon normally, guaranteed. But with the Cane of Samaria, it really does take all the doubt out of the question, as well as the ability to do that icebreaker. And for what it's worth, this is a pretty fast dungeon these days. Now, that looks like a divergent check, though. We have not seen Myra area yet.
And it looks like we will require bombos to get into that mire. That is always some good early information to have. I really like that early mire area play more and more.
Yeah, we've seen Kermit scout several times actually in this seed, things that Linlinlin was not prioritizing, which, just that information advantage. Linlinlin may have done a route early on that gives more of that naturally just because of where you find items. But when you sequence break, sometimes, you might not find much and you may be in the hole for a fair amount of time that you can't get back easily. Both are runners grabbing their respective big keys as Kermit, unable to enter Misery Mire, went right into Desert. We saw earlier that the ledge was nothing, but this will make for a very efficient Desert Palace, actually.
Desert, a pretty quick dungeon to do, but it is still a dungeon that you're entering for only 2 items. It is being a pendant.
Yeah, arguably the thing that's least fun about it, but on the bright side, we have Mirror, and we entered from the left side, so the best case scenario there. I'm not sure if Linlinlin is digging that item, though. Already had good luck with a shovel earlier. Maybe this shovel will actually reveal something important to us.
Yeah, it's tough to find a good time to head back there when you've already done the South Dark World stuff. You've already done your Smith Chain. There's not a whole lot bringing you back to Haunted Grove.
Perhaps today it'll be a dirty bow, something that will be really annoying for Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace.
Kermit's committing to this dip. He's heading into the backside of Desert for Landmo and that second item.
And while it's still, relatively fast with boots, there is a lot of rooms to clear here, at least one of them requiring combat just to get through. So, even if you do it well, you are sinking some time here, as we see Linlinlin taking advantage of that potion to burn down Cold Stare. And I mean on fire.
Cold Stare never stood a chance.
So an interesting scenario being brought up in chat, being that the only other pendant that we're not, really exploring yet is going to be Thieves Town, which is completable. We have quite a breadth of things that we could find on that pedestal today. So without a book, both of our runners in the dark, kind of, and I guess illiterate.
Yeah, really, if I'm reading this right, we need a bow, we need bombos, we might need ether for Turtle Rock, and all of those are potentially on the pedestal.
Yeah, even the cape leading to Ice Rod, which we have on Bumper Ledge. All sorts of things that could be very not fun. But that is just in the realm of theory crafting for the moment. We still have options available to us, both runners kind of chasing after a few random locations, hoping not to go into Thieves Town. You mentioned it before, Village of Outcasts completely avoided. To a practically insane degree, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree. You've got 4 checks in Thieves Town, 3 in Village of Outcasts, plus that 8th check from the Green Pendant. That is a lot that both of our runners are leaving on the table.
Looks like we get an Ice Palace check here, or at least, completion from Kermit, as Linlinlin will drop into Misery Mire. Or not drop into, but at least check the area.
Also, did I miss a checkerboard cave check on Kermit's side?
I believe so. It looked like it was junk, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
Although that would be quite the weird thing to miss.
It's been a day for weird skips.
Yeah, confirmed. And large rupee counts. I'm still kind of baffled at how many rupees Kermit has available right now. Looking to really bankroll. Well, if he had already used the potion at this point, we'd be able to catch that fairy, but we'll actually be better in this scenario to definitely hold on to it. If he does manage to end up having full health by the end of the dungeon, Kermit could actually do sword beam strats if he runs a little short on magic, if he wants to preserve that for later. Could potentially be useful for Palace of Darkness if we wanted to try and do a sequence break.
It looks like we're going to see the Swamp Palace play from Lin here. That's definitely another high item density place to go, and it is a fully logically clearable crystal dungeon.
Yeah, and given the choice between a pendant Thieves Town, which, as painful as that can be, isn't, you know, guaranteed to give you what you need, and a crystal that you need to complete anyway, perfectly sane choice to make here.
Absolutely. I'm definitely a big proponent of prioritizing completable crystal dungeons unless you have a strong reason to be going elsewhere.
The Swamp Palace traditionally being the slowest dungeon to do in a lot of seeds, just because, you know, if you don't have boots, if, you know, you don't have kind of like the best loadouts, but these days, in a casual boots setting, when you have Cane of Samaria or even just bombs at your disposal, Diver Down has made this dungeon relatively trivial for those who have practiced it. So we might see a left side first scenario here. Linlinlin is still looking for some items. I wouldn't be surprised by it, but otherwise we'll probably jump right back in after the boss, and it will take significantly less time than it normally would. But hey, I mean, what do I know? I'm not the one who's playing the game right now, and these two have certainly defied my expectations, so lacking a crystal ball, I'll just have to do the best I can from here.
Absolutely. You definitely do still see a lot of debate about when do you skip left side, when do you do it first versus save it for later. I feel like in this case, we've definitely got a lot of items that we're still looking for. If it's me, I do left side first, but
I'm generally of the same opinion. But an interesting development here in Ice Palace, Kermit does not have the hookshot to work with, and is kind of forced to resort to bombs if he wants to clear this efficiently, and pulls off probably the most difficult one in the dungeon in just a try or two. I'm pretty impressed by that.
looks like Lin going the other way and deciding to do backside swamp first.
Yeah,
so Kermit definitely spending some time doing Ice Palace the slow way here. It's a little unfortunate with his loadout.
But the commitment to it really speaks to, you know, respecting your opponent and not letting any stone remain unturned when that could end up being the thing that costs you the race.
Absolutely. Not faulting the play one bit because, again, it's that full clearable in logic crystal dungeon. Well, in logic depending on key layout, I should say.
Yeah, and which of the 6 approaches we're using. Well, I'm very surprised to see that Linlinlin didn't do left side swamp first, but it is really close in comparison to, you know, going back in. So, although I'm not sure if that timing changes if you, because you don't dive her down the same way, right? I don't know, but I mean, it is pretty much not important if you want to go back in after. Certainly a serviceable Argus fight so far. I'm going to miss on the one cycle, but a fast second cycle will finish that off for us.
And that's a book on Argus. That opens up a couple of checks. Also, gives a runner who cares to do so the ability to check PED. Which
or
are
even
a number
the
of things
tablet.
That could be... Yeah.
The hard thing to do, though, is, like, when are you going to try and, like, get it back up the mountain and check ether? Because that seems so far out of the way at this point.
Yeah, I suppose the one saving grace there is that we have not seen Dark Death Mountain at all, so if you're making a play up there anyway...
I gotta wonder though, like, what was Argus doing with that book? I mean, how well do you think he reads with just the one eye? Do you think he has the depth perception to, understand the very complicated, nearly hieroglyphic Hylian?
Yeah, fun fact, Hylian script, you do actually have to unfocus your eyes. It's like a magic eye thing. So, much more difficult to do with only one pupil.
Would you call it Hyrulean glyphics?
I mean, I wouldn't, but I understand why you would.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from there. That is a fair point. Well, I believe this is the second time that, I thought Linlinlin was about to get Deadrock there. That would have been the second time so far in the seed. With the hookshot in hand, it looks like we're going to follow that book. Linlinlin committed to the choice to finish Argus at this point in the seed, so we'll find out shortly. In the meantime, yeah.
Yeah, pulling out that green goo and fire rod to finish out this cold stare fight. Life a little more difficult for Kermit with no tempered sword.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him grab the Titan's Mitts and then not continue left with it towards Village of Outcasts. I mean, both have pretty much avoided that stuff as much as possible. I'm wondering when that'll happen for Kermit at this point. Linlinlin going into Spike Cave. I'm starting to wonder how much the team name Last Locationers and what exactly that implies, because Spike Cave typically a last location. Not going to be today.
Yeah, that's usually the last thing you do in any particular mountain climb, because it's not like you're going back out of there. And there is so much left on the mountain. But
yeah, so at bare minimum, I'm going to get the health refill from the old man, a wise choice, and head towards the east side, presumably to do all of the nice Dark Death Mountain checks we have available. That's a Hookshot Cave, a Super Bunny Cave, and we'll finally get a chance to scout out Turtle Rock, which we know we need a Bombos. Do we potentially need more than just the Quake? Perhaps I have been communicating telepathically with Kermit, because it looks like we're going to see that Tempered Sword pretty shortly here. May feel kind of weird having just done Ice Palace in that Cold Stare fight, but hey, at least I didn't die to it. And I believe this to be an astute point from one of our chatters talking about Linlinlin potentially not having scouted the Bumper Cave, which is where we found the Ice Rod. We do not know anything about the cave, but that's a bow.
that is a really good find, because another thing that we haven't seen yet... Oh, and there's the lamp as well in Hookshot Cave. But another area that we haven't seen any of yet is Pod and Eastern, and being able to route and complete those two dungeons all the way together is very nice. And it looks like Quake for Turtle Rock access, so neither of our runners will have to worry about that.
I gotta think when Kermit heads up there to find out that Quake is the required medallion for it, he'll have a much better understanding of, the whole sequence to get that Ice Rod, thanks to having checked Bumper Cave. We'll probably approach the potential go mode differently. Linlin's probably just considering, hey, where's my Ice Rod? Really doesn't know that it's a cave that we're after.
So I don't believe Lynn's checked any of those other Graveyard Ledge, your King's Tomb, so that's information that might still come back to him before he starts worrying about too many crazy plays.
The good news for Linlinlin is having exhausted quite a lot of the overworld at this point, in advance of Kermit, has just about everything needed. I mean, at this point, we're looking for Bombos and the cape, as we mentioned, Kermit is going to need to try and catch up some of those checks because there's quite a lot of items not at his disposal that he needs in order to actually gain back this overall progression advantage.
And chat corrected me, it looks like Lin did in fact do King's Tomb, so with only Graveyard Ledge there, that's less of a chance that he heads back in that direction, but not none.
So I am to believe, I think, from where we're seeing Kermit go now, that this is probably the swamp play. I haven't found that hook shot. If he was heading towards Palace of Darkness, I'd be very scared just because of... well, he does have a blue potion. I was thinking about the potentiality of, potion camera manipulation, but no, we're going to see most of the same sequence we saw from Linlinlin. So I imagine we're going to find our cape probably first on Linlinlin's side, but not necessarily our go mode.
Of course, it also depends. I believe Lin left 2 items behind in Swamp. If Kermit picks those up and there's something good there, that could be huge for Team Hime.
Yeah, whether or not we've got our item counts figured out, it's definitely the left side was skipped.
I'm taking chat's word on the on the exact item count. It's at least 1 item because he didn't get big chest either.
Valid point. So we will get to see all the way to Helmsor King. Linlinlin didn't do the rest of this dungeon. This is a straight dive right to Helmsor King. It almost seems like he's hedging his bets that he can find a go mode in a convenient way through the just the ice rod, I imagine, or I guess that and the bombos. It's bold to do this, maybe just expecting to run back through the dungeon since the entrance isn't that far away from where you need to go. I don't know, I'm just not too used to or familiar with seeing people go right to Helmsor King. That feels kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I suppose folks don't necessarily have the option depending on where that big key is hiding. But the more I think about it, the more I like this play because he's 2 items from go mode. If he finds 1 on Helmsor King, that means that when he goes back into the dungeon, he could potentially be able to peace out after finding the other one.
Yo, I do like to see the quick swap tech attempted. He did try to drop a bomb to do a little bit of extra faster damage to the shell of Helmsor King. Something you can really only do to save time in quick swap. Unfortunately didn't do the damage, but looked pretty cool. Alright, well, I would be very shocked to see Linlinlin not at least go back in to grab a few more items. There's still stuff left in here, and having recently found the lamp, would have even more incentive to do so via logic. No diver down for Kermit. Not going to try to save a little bit of time on that front. I don't believe he went left side either.
Nope, he has at the very least decided to do backside first. And it looks like he's going to turn around and turn in that big key.
Well, it's a small percentage possibility, but that... Oh, no, I think he's got the ladder or the staircase glitch.
Yeah, that gets most of us there.
At least once in a while. I mean, I guess if you always diver down, that's a pretty rare thing to experience unless you are trying to find this chest. And the 300 rupees there, while not necessarily what you want, at least gives you some information about the left side. A resident fast guy in the chat, Andy, reminding us if you just hold left, you'll cancel the stair lag and you'll never have that happen. Great point.
Yeah, it's not exactly difficult to avoid. It's just a matter of remembering to do it with everything else that is running through your head.
There's a couple other similar, scenarios like that. For example, here in Palace of Darkness, the lobby chest, or the one that's in the middle of the main hub area, that you drop down and go up the stairs. It's super easy to accidentally bonk into the wall when you're right next to that key door, and that can cause kind of a similar scenario. I'm used to from NMG just like, pausing or using a pause buffer to try to avoid that. With quick swap, some of these things are not, the same way you would normally do them historically.
And the rest of pod pretty dry. Lin piecing out and probably heading into Eastern here.
And as he marches onwards through the rest of the crystals available to him, we'll get to see if Kermit's going to buy the bait from the book. An interesting burn dash there to get through the shooter room in Eastern Palace. That was pretty nifty.
Yeah, one of those moves that you can't justify if not for quick swap, making it easy to get to that invincibility item.
Yeah, and honestly, that's my favorite part about quick swap in competitive play. We get to see some interesting room strats that otherwise probably would never be viable unless you're memeing. But now you can meme and dream. Is this finally the Village of Outcasts? After the sick kid, maybe? I mean, now that I've said it, it can't be.
Yep, there you go. Commentator's curse.
Cursing myself. At least I'm not cursing the runners, right?
It's true.
Alright, well, that appears to be, like, pretty much nothing so far here in Eastern Palace, and if I'm to judge this correctly, yeah, gonna go all the way right for the big key. Unfortunate. Kermit's turn for Ether Tablet, not going to yield much, giving Linlinlin some time to kind of make some separation here. These were a couple of checks that Kermit probably needed to avoid in order to kind of pull this race a little bit closer.
Yeah, between the fruitless desert play and having to do Ice Palace the long way, Kermit definitely does have some room to make up here.
So I'm trying to remember, where in the world did we find that Canis Samaria? That's the thing that I'm trying to account for here.
I believe that was in the purple lunchbox, if I'm recalling correctly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
That's... oh, boy. Well, I mean, it's going to prevent Kermit from going into Turtle Rock. Whether or not that remains a good thing or a bad thing, it seems very likely a bad thing, if I had to guess. Like, I almost kind of think that Kermit will, based on reputation, end up doing all the Village of Outcasts in Thieves Town before checking that.
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope for that magic cape to be hiding in Thieves Town. Forced Turtle Rock double dips are just not fun to watch.
Well, were that the scenario, Linlinlin would still be probably trying to look all over the place. I mean, still trying to search for a Bombos medallion required by the crystal progression in this seed, and doesn't know yet that, he needs the cape anyway. So, still some opportunity here for Kermit, although I think he needs to start making something happen. I know I may have been kind of joking at it or hinting at it earlier, but the possibility of something like Cape on the Pedestal is looming. I mean, we still have some things we can do, but the odds is actually increasing as time passes. And to all you mathematicians out there, I understand that's not how odds work, but the probability of us encountering that at this point and onwards, I don't know. I'm no lawyer. I'm no mathematician. I barely even passed trigonometry. Well, this is a new check. Ben, what do you think about checking your big bomb here?
You know, I'm not sure that we've even seen Pyramid yet, so that's an argument for heading this way. It makes life just a little bit easier, getting it all in one go.
Yeah, that's so bizarre to think about. An hour in, we've had the hammer since 20-something minutes. And Dark World access pretty much right around the same time. No one's been to the pyramid. It's starting to shrink, though, the list of things that Linlinlin can do. Done most of the overworld. Pretty much Desert Palace would be the next thing, I think.
Oh, and there's our cape. Lin finds it first, but doesn't know that he needs it. Now, does finding it make him remember, oh yeah, Bumper Cave's there, and you know, the entire village of outcasts is right there.
I'm going to say heading north here is a surefire sign that Linlinlin's about to find that ice rod. This is a really big break in this race. However, heading towards Catfish, do we maybe see a save and quit that avoids it?
It feels bad turning around from Catfish.
I mean, this could really end up still not revealing the go mode to Linlinlin. I mean, obviously we don't know where Bombos is, but I would say that this is kind of like a really important decision for Kermit's chances of, you know, staying competitive in this race, as Kermit is 2 dungeons down at this point, pretty much. That's a mirror.
And Lin's heading to the mountain. Is he going to T-Rock? I don't think there's much else up here for him.
That is absolutely what you'd be doing in this scenario. And, you know, the thing is like, we know better, but this is a very sensible decision. There's a lot of items, you know, in Turtle Rock. It feels like it happens all the time. And maybe Linlinlin actually finds Bombos in this process, may end up getting a faster go mode than Kermit out of that. So, you know, who are we to know, and who are we to cast judgment on it until we actually see what's in there? But definitely not fortunate on the fact of a double dip for Ice Rod. A few murmurs in chat about the potentiality of saving a portal near the safety exit. That could also be on the table. Whether or not we find Bombos might influence that.
I mean, he could save the portal, but what's there in the light world that he has left to check to come back with that portal still intact? All of the check density is in the dark world at this point.
Yeah, and if you found Bombos in this dungeon, you'd be going to Meyer, losing the portal either way. The more I think about it, I don't think there's really anything he could do in the light world. Well, I guess you could check desert. You could check desert.
Yeah, and that would be going into desert and doing it the long way, because you couldn't flute to 6 and mirror into it without losing your portal.
Oh, actually, yeah. Now that we're talking about it in chat, you could do a death abuse to save the portal. That is another way. But I mean, to our previous point, though, I mean, Meyer is cut off at that point, so finding a Bombos here would not allow us to at least get Misery Meyer done while we're out of here. So far, nothing but keys. Going to use the hook shot and a little bit of deft dodging, it would appear, to avoid these crystal rollers. Kind of a hairy situation when you only have blue mail and just a scant 6 hearts to work with. Those chain chomps looking kind of beefy. Well, now that we've kind of cast the die on what it would require in order to keep a portal, I mean, I'm seeing chat talk about it right now. It seems like a very long sequence just to not have to run through Turtle Rock twice. And I have to imagine it is worth it if you think about all of the things you'd have to do. And with so much left on the table that we're not certain about, that might not necessarily be a realistic opportunity for Linlinlin to save a portal here. May attempt to anyway, but it's going to take a lot of presence of mind to remember all of those circumstances. In the meantime, Kermit making his way to Helmasaur King. I believe he's done a full clear of this dungeon, so a brief Eastern Palace with the best fast equipment to work with, and we'll be pretty much within striking distance of Linlinlin, provided he doesn't jump right into Turtle Rock. We'll, of course, know that he needs the cape.
Yes, indeed. And with Pod and Eastern being the 5-6 crystals, it's reasonably likely that he does as Lin did and goes straight to Pyramid Fairy, finds his cape, which would potentially close up this gap quite a bit. Right now, the the big thing that's in play is that both of our runners are an item from Go... Well, are 2 items from Go mode, both of them in pretty out-of-the-way locations.
The good news for Kermit, though, is that the Cane of Samaria is keeping him away from this super time-intensive thing that Linlinlin is doing. And he'll eventually have to choose the purple chest. Like, it's a very small, window of opportunity for Kermit to miss that. Really can't. And so I think that Kermit really does get onto the go mode path sooner. Linlinlin just gotta find like a bombos or something here. I think that's probably the best case scenario, so you can at least do another dungeon.
Yeah, Kermit's running out of other stuff to check besides that purple chest. Not having the option of a fruitless TR dip. Ironically, Team Hime, not the last locationers, potentially getting helped by a last location situation.
Yeah, shifting expectations all throughout this seed. For a long time, we didn't have a lot of diversions, but things have really turned on a heel. As we see Kermit and Linlinlin taking, well, for the most part, linear paths through the I guess you call it the second third of the seed, but now that, Kermit has missed a few things, it has allowed him to avoid some of these costlier, time-intensive things that we're seeing Linlinlin do here. I would definitely say the worst case scenario for Linlinlin here is not finding a bombos, but I feel like you kind of have to find a bombos here. Like, I'm trying to think of where else it might even be.
But we still have not seen anything in the Dark Village. It could be on Ped, it could be on Left Side Swamp. There's lots of places that bombos could be.
Now that you mention it, yeah, like, it just feels bizarre that we haven't done the Village of Outcasts. Neither of them have.
Yeah, not even Thieves Town. Like, that's a pendant dungeon. You can argue for skipping it, but none of the 3 Village of Outcast checks either. That's 8 checks, counting the green pendant check. That's a lot of density that both of our runners are assiduously avoiding.
Well, a quick dash to get around at least the front edge of these lasers. Linlinlin going to wisely use a Cane of Samaria block to knock off the red hard hat beetle. And finding no bombos today, we'll have to leave the dungeon. We'll see which approach Linlinlin takes with the portal, and whether or not we care about preserving it at this point. Slash is perhaps a frustration. Definitely going to head to the Village of Outcasts area. An opportunity if Linlinlin finds some of these items fast, or even susses out the cape leading to Ice Rod. I think you kind of want to do the denser thing first, though. Alright, well, with entering Village of Outcasts, there is no portal to be preserved. We'll get a bottle, though. That blue potion maybe would have been handier earlier. In the meantime, Kermit almost done with Eastern Palace here, so yeah, we'll end up almost assuredly checking the Pyramid Fairy next. I feel like that when you've done all of the crystals available to you and you're trying to decide between these two things, considering we've avoided it to this point, I'd be very surprised to not see him do the same thing that Linlinlin did.
Yes, indeed. And at this point, almost the worst thing that Linlinlin could find at this point would be Bombos, because that could potentially pull him away from that bumper ledge and into Mire. But then again, I think the only place, the only other place you could find Bombos that isn't along his path to bumper ledge would be Graveyard Ledge.
And I believe we've seen both runners check Graveyard Ledge at this point. Maybe Linlinlin didn't. But gosh, we still have left side swamp. Kermit heading in that general direction now. No, Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah.
I got real scared for a second there. I mean, I don't personally have a stake in either of these racers running, but I do want this to remain as competitive as it is, because for quite a while it looked like Linlinlin had a somewhat insurmountable lead. Well, this will produce the cape needed, and once Kermit's found that, I'd be very surprised to not see him take the north way all the way up to the bumper ledge. Maybe deciding to flute to 3 and take that portal instead, if that's faster. I've never timed that.
I wasn't keeping super close track of item counts in Turtle Rock. I suppose Bombos could be on Trinex for all I know.
Which may arguably be the cruelest fate imaginable for Linlinlin, turning this into a seed of his team's namesake, really. Because I have to imagine in that scenario, you would end up going to check Desert first.
Yeah, I can't imagine you climb mountain yet again. You're really hoping not to be able to knock out Trinex right before GT at that point.
Well, Kermit has the cape, knows exactly where to go, and I guess it was faster to mirror, flute, and portal. We'll grab the ice rod just the Cane of Samaria away, and in the general neighborhood of that purple chest. But that is not the only thing available to him. In the meantime, we find the Bombos. I don't know how I would feel in Linlinlin's shoes about that Bombos. I mean, great, you have it, you need it, but, I mean, that's not nice, Rod.
Yeah, it's another crystal dungeon that's completable. But it's Mire. It's only 2 items, and it's one of those dungeons you would really rather go mode, if at all possible.
So item locations in Mire may end up being a deciding factor in terms of closing the gap here. I would definitely say that Linlinlin still has an overall advantage. Oh, geez. Oh, that was close. Despite having blue potions and not using them, Linlinlin will take the free refill from collecting the green pendant. We could also check Sahazrala at this point. Although, maybe you check the pedestal? I mean, you're in the neighborhood. I guess at this point, if you were going to have to do the pedestal, you just finish Desert first.
Yeah, you've already got those other 2 pendants under your belt. Oh, and Lin fluting away rather than checking bumper ledge.
Yeah, and I can't fault them there. I mean, 2 locations to 1 at minimum. Plus, you know, crystal you need. Will not feel good to have to check everything. Now, maybe the items are, friendly in here and we find them very quickly. But I can guarantee you, if you have to get the big key and the 2 items, you're probably spending a fair amount of time in here either way. Now, bad news for Kermit, gonna go into Thieves Town. This will not help him at all.
Well, he does need to find that bombos that's in the maiden's chest, so...
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that. I've been blanking because this has been such a weird seesaw scenario. So, yeah, I guess he absolutely do this. Now, whether or not he's going to go do the purple chest afterwards or bite on the mire, that will probably be a telling moment in this race.
Absolutely. At this point, it's a battle of who goes to that out-of-the-way location and enters go mode first.
Well, good sign for the Team Hime fans out there who were hoping that he wasn't going to quick swap to Mirror. So Kermit is going to inevitably find that Bombos, barring disaster. As for Linlinlin, still looking for that big key, it looks like. Oh gosh, in a Doomsday scenario, he may even end up going back to left side swamp.
That would be a hell of a play. unless he has forgotten about Graveyard Ledge altogether, misclicked it on his tracker, thinks he's already seen it. That would be a hard play to justify.
It's just, I know that Linlinlin has been in the area and done most of the things in northern Hyrule, so if there were a scenario for that to happen, this would kind of be the setup for it. Well, it remains to be seen. We'll have to only abstract some guesses for now. Misery Mire is still yet to be completed, and after this, we'll get a much clearer picture. And folks, if you're interested in trying to pick their brains after the race, maybe through the next stream even, if you want to try to get a better understanding than we have of these racers, a great way to support them is to give them a follow on their personal Twitch channels. They are, of course, playing for the rest of the league, too, so if you want to stay up to date on that stuff, go ahead and check out the !R command we'll post in chat, and you can check them out, for the next time you see them racing. Alright, this is Bombos for Team Hime. Kermit going to find it, and considers leaving the dungeon. Will end up killing the boss. Probably a safer decision overall, but lacking that Cane of Samari, I don't fault them for continuing.
Absolutely, that's the green pendant. That's another item location, potentially 2 if Ped winds up.
We oftentimes joke about Pedestal, but I mean, this has not been out of question even a little bit. For these runners, they both have this consideration in the back of their minds about it. So I guess the as we watch Linlinlin do the spooky action glitch here in the basement of Misery Mire, I wonder if there's the temptation to go into desert next. I mean, you're right there. You can mirror directly into it. It'd be hard not to.
I think that has to be a pretty strong temptation. That's 2 items, 3 if you count Ped, which he already has those other 2. And speaking of Ped...
So we're very unlikely to find anything super important on the pedestal. We could potentially find some time save, though, if there's like silvers or maybe even a safety find in, powder. But beyond that, not a whole lot that we could benefit from.
Yeah, with blue mail and 14 hearts and a bottle, I think Kermit's all right for safeties. Really, silvers would be the only thing to give him a big help here.
But looking to appease the people, going to check it blind, and that is just a piece of heart. Well, actually, it is good enough for a full container, so At least it provided some incremental value to him.
It looks like Lin does indeed decide to do the desert play.
And in the meantime, Kermit will check the Sahasrahla item, so I'm kind of wondering if he's forgetting the purple chest as well. It doesn't seem like he is. He seems to be intentionally avoiding it.
Just a shield on behind that green pendant.
Well, that is also the last shield, as we did see King Zora offer one earlier. All right, this is Meyer. We know that the big key is in a very unfortunate place for trying to do this dungeon fast, so this definitely represents a distinct advantage for Linlinlin that Kermit did not find that Cane of Samaria first, as he will be forced to double dip this.
Yes, indeed. That's a double dip on either side. Lin's in T-Rock and Kermit here in Meyer.
The extra hard part about this is that unless Linlinlin straight up cannot remember the bumper cave, it's really hard for him to not just eventually end up there before Kermit has to do that purple chest. I mean, you can do a whole lot of Misery Mire, and then it takes a fair amount of time to get back in here. So, based on seeing Linlinlin do a double dip as well, we must have left, I imagine, the cutscene chest. Which does help Kermit a little bit, but it's going to take more than that for this to flip.
Yeah, I think really the mistake Lin could make that would flip things pretty nicely in Team Hime's favor would be heading back to left side swamp before checking that bumper ledge.
Yeah, and I would say that's considerably more likely than, say, not knowing the bumper cave was never checked. Like that, it seems like a deliberate last location choice, which I guess is suiting for the team name.
There's definitely Oh, go ahead.
I mean, do you do left side swamp before you check bumper cave if you've been avoiding it?
I mean, there are definitely folks who will argue for once you've made that intentional skip, you commit to it because it's just a time loss to go back and find nothing. But
and that's kind of why I think that he's forgotten bumper cave, but we're gonna see real shortly if he has or not. He's gonna do the green pendant, and then it's gonna be one of the two.
Yeah, checking bumper cave is just so much faster than left side swamp, though. When those are your last two options, it's really hard to justify left side swamp first.
There's the big key for Kermit. Still has a lot to check, and Linlinlin heading towards 3. Looks like he'll find the bumper cave here. Although, yeah, it does have pedestal available, because... Oh no, did he even kill Van Mullis?
According to Tracker, he did not, and I didn't see him.
Okay, but heading south out of the portal, almost assuredly this is the check. So Linlinlin should be hitting go mode here in just a moment. May perhaps be kicking himself over this.
Yeah, that definitely feels bad when you know that's something that your opponent could have, and we know did check very early. Of course, with the benefit of knowledge, we know that this is very much Linlinlin's race to lose, but it might not feel that way from his perspective.
Yeah, I would be looking at racetime.gg right now, wondering if, like, you know, is my opponent in GT right now? And in a different scenario here, Kermit would be, let's just say he did the purple chest, you know, before coming in here. Might be a few rooms back, maybe half the dungeon back at this point, and would be within margin of error to at least catch up a large portion of the distance. But at this point, we'll have to go to purple chest, and it'll take a whole lot to try and get back into this. Ooh, no, and that's going to be an ether check first. Or maybe Turtle Rock? Alright, I'm just going to stop guessing what Kermit's doing. This has been just up and down every time I try to do this in the seed.
Yeah, well, that is the one thing in poor Kermit's favor here, is that he can't check Turtle Rock. That's one double dip that he's not doing. Hadn't done a Gina yet. That's that's what we'd forgotten about.
Like twice I've called that wrong. Yeah, he does not have Samaria. Alright, Linlinlin in full command of the race at this point, whether or not he knows it. Heading back into Turtle Rock to just simply blaze through the entire thing. Fully equipped, loaded for bear, even a gold sword at his hip. Should have a pretty smooth finish here.
Hamzda in chat pointing out that Kermit still has Zora to do if he wants to, ever actually spend any of those rupees.
Yeah, that part still confuses me. I get that maybe you choose to, not go all the way to Zora. That's time intensive, but you have boots. I would have just done that. But then again, I'm not in the Invitational League, so yeah, I have no place to talk about that.
Speaking of information that your opponent had very early in the race, Kermit just checking one more box, like, wait, could it be? Could it? No. Okay. I'm safe from an Agaseed, at least.
And I'm inclined to believe this is Kermit heading for the left side swamp. I think, unless this is Bombos, there's nothing else he could be over here for. Well, despite the fact that Linlinlin pretty much in full control of this race and may as well be projected a winner at this point, nothing is ever over until we've crossed into the Triforce room. So, maybe even, the worst fates can happen. We did, after all, see in the last race between these teams that despite the fact that Dragon Strike was probably in a strong commanding position to win the race, because of a power failure, ended up having to lose it. So we will, by league rules, have to watch Linlinlin complete the seed before we declare a winner. But it would be very hard to imagine losing the race outright at this point. So we'll cheer the two of them on, wish them the best of the luck. As far as these two teams go for this league, this is their second match of the week between each other. They will, of course, have week 4, 5, 6, and 7. But if you're looking to see these two teams play again, you're going to have to wait an extra week. We actually have a week off while SG Live happens next week. Try not to conflict those two events. So as we watch Trinex burn down, there's a game we like to play, Ben, right?
There is. There are 22 locations in Ganon's Tower where that big key might be hiding. And I see a wall of numbers rising in chat as people try to guess where could that be. I see you betting number 10, Udai.
I tried to, and then I realized that I did the bot command and guessed my number too fast. It wouldn't have started. Feels bad, man. Having the edge sometimes actually hurts you.
Well, I always bet 2, because you also need a small key, so that's what's got to be in the first chest.
Yeah, fair point, fair point. So we will cut off that game, 22 locations if you want to guess it, as soon as Linlinlin enters, which is very shortly. And hey, maybe win some free internet points or just bragging rights for being the best at guessing 1 in 22. Alrighty, a left side first for Linlinlin. Probably going to do the conventional Stalfos room to mirror to right. We do have a small key here for the first item.
See, I'm half right already.
Hey, you're doing better than me. You're batting at least 500. Two, three, 4, and 5, all yielding very little. Extra keys, though. Linlinlin feeling smooth sailing to head to the right side, not having to do the combat of that room, representing a small potential time save. Gets the most items as fast as possible. In the interim, we're seeing Kermit do Zora, looks like, and that was quick. Hope Room. Number 7, right?
Yes.
And a shout outs and congratulations to Burn Toast. You win the GTBK guessing game. Celebrate in whichever way you feel is appropriate without injuring yourself or anyone else. As we climb this GT, we look towards Linlinlin to see if he can close this out. Should probably have no issues. He's very well equipped and a very good game, very good player of the game.
Absolutely. Not much else to be found here if he decides to open up some gauntlet chests. The silvers would be nice, but not necessary by any means.
No, I do think it's kind of an interesting tactical thing to consider. We have, of course, a buffet of knowledge available to us, as viewers. All of us can see what both runners have done. Linlinlin could very well be feeling like Kermit is like literally 10 seconds from not dunning at any moment. Maybe he checks these chests, maybe he doesn't, but finding silvers would represent real time save.
It's true. That's the thing about racing. It's real easy to get caught in the trap of knowing every mistake that you've made, assuming that you're running against some theoretical perfect run where the other guy did everything right.
I get the feeling that's how Kermit's going to feel after this race, as he finds Canis Mario with his opponent already at Lammolas 2. So if I've got this kind of timed out about right, we should see a Vitreous kill right around Aghanim 2, or potentially entering Ganon, maybe a little bit sooner than that. And right as Kermit climbs the mountain, we ought to see pretty much the dot done.
That sounds about right. At this point, if you're Kermit, you're hoping for a fortuitous GT big key find. But we know that big key is right there. That's not what's going to save you.
Yeah, he's done a whole lot in here, though, so besides the switch being a meanie, which he may be able to circumvent if he's smart about how he progresses through the dungeon. Or actually, does he already have the... He already has the big key, so he's just got to go right through. Unfortunately, the one thing that stinks about that is it's kind of weird to do the whole spooky setup downstairs. It's very easy to forget that you don't have the switch pressed already. So we'll see if he remembers that, as Linlinlin makes his way into Moldorm 2. I can't help but laugh at some of the suggestions in chat about how much time Silvers actually saves. I mean, I guess it depends on how far away you shoot from, because there's a ton of lag. But yeah, I don't think he's going to save 6 minutes off of that. Would be pretty interesting if that were the case.
Yeah, when you're pretty new at Silverless Ganon, if you're expecting to take a couple of deaths because you're not used to the strat, you might save a couple minutes. For runners of this caliber, not even.
And on a purely theoretical level, there's only so many Silverless cycles you can really save with execution. You can get 2 free spins at the beginning of the whole Silverless phase. But you're basically looking at straight triples from there. And needing 12, you can at best prevent some of errors being a problem by getting those free ones. Pretty much a guaranteed 4 minute. So essentially making that from like a 2 cycle to a well, even potentially 1 cycle, cutting down from a 4 cycle to a 2 cycle for most people.
Linlinlin summons the Dark World Duck and heads toward the pyramid as Kermit closes out his Vitreous fight at 1 hour 33 minutes and change. Let's kill a pig, shall we?
It is about that time after all. And some nice cheese facts from Ganon. He was getting tired of being provolone in there. And of course, Golden Sword going to be trivial to work with here.
That pun was better than bad. It's Gouda.
You know, we'll accept that. Really on a roll here, a wheel, if you will. And we'll continue on with this fight. We're into phase 3. Linlinlin showing no signs of fatigue. Of course, you wouldn't. Gold Sword's a pretty comfy place to be. And with just 4 slashes, we'll make our way into phase 4 with just 4 more silver arrows to say no more.
Well, considering that the first phase of the league season is indeed 7 rounds of Swiss, I'd say your theory's full of holes.
I'm going to have to admit defeat here. And, yeah, so we have silvers to work with here. I don't know why I thought he had silvers. I just completely forgot. Oh, because we were talking about potentially finding them. But yeah, this is a comfy place to be for a silverless. He doesn't have a lot of health to work with, but doesn't feel at all concerned about that. When you've practiced this fight enough, you really do feel comfortable in just about every situation.
Yeah, by this phase, Ganon's attacks are pretty predictable. You're worried about defeating him efficiently. You're not worried about taking a death. Only 1 obstacle left to surmount. He does cross the bridge safely. GG's to Linlinlin.
And with that, he'll finish on racetime.gg with an official time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 16 seconds. And just like that, we are joined by the victor of the race, Linlinlin. Congratulations and GG.
GG's. What a seed. Like, I mean, I know Kermit. Like, when I found that cane, I kind of knew I was kind of in a good spot. Not gonna lie.
Well, supposedly it's a reputational thing with Kermit, right? Like, he just will not check purple chest.
But admittedly, I think I should have checked bumper after Thieves Down. I thought about it, but I had Maya open. I would have saved a lot of time, because if I did check that bumper cave, I would have saved my portal in TR as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity with
yeah.
that. Well, so we were getting roasted endlessly by chat, who seemed to think that we thought you had no competence at all. We were wondering why you were holding off on checking that. We were just curious, wanted to ask you about that.
When I got the cape from, I mean, I knew it was there. When I got the cape from Pyramid Fairy, I was like, I was tempted to actually not check Catfish right now and go from the village portal into Bumper, Gravel Ledge, and Catfish instead. But I figured, like, I haven't touched the village yet. I haven't touched the village, so I'll just do the village and go north after that. I went to TR first. Sorry, and then I went to the village. I wanted to go to TR, but I got the bow, so I figured, like, I'm not gonna go to TR yet. I mean, nothing was in pod. I mean, I guess you had to do pod in Eastern for the cape, but yeah.
Also, to properly update the audience, we do have a forfeit coming in from Kermit, so we won't see the finish of the dungeon. He is on the save and quit menu as well, so that's not like frozen or anything. Hopefully, we'll see if he could come in for an interview as well to join us. Quite an interesting turn of events. You might be interested to see how this played back in terms of like moments where the two of you may have been able to take and regain leads. You did have a commanding dungeon advantage for the majority of the race. It was interesting to see moments where if Kermit had actually grabbed that purple chest, where this could have turned around a bit.
I don't know. Like, I know Kermit's playstyle, and I kind of played accordingly, I would say. Like I skipped left side swamp because I figured if there's something here, I'm gonna be the first one to get there. Because I know he'll skip it. So I just did.
It was a safe bet. Like, you were definitely right.
I just, and I had a lot left. Also didn't touch Dark Death Mountain. Like I was delaying Hera for a bit, trying to get that hammer. It wasn't Hera, as usual, when I do that play. But
I definitely want to ask, so both of you really, really avoided Village of Outcasts. And I understand, like, a lot of runners have an aversion to Pendant Thieves Town. But, I mean, is there more to that? I had to ask.
I mean, like, I started a high cave, got the mids, did Smith, got a hook shot, and a cane. And at this point, I have Scout Woods, Ice Palace, Swamp Palace open. I'm not touching Outcast. I'm just not at this point. And then I went to the mountain, got a bow. Okay, pot and Eastern. And at this point, I know TR is open because I already checked the medallion while I was getting the bow. So I just figured I would just go into TR since I was missing 2 items and not only 1. But yeah, at some point you kind of have to go. But you don't. I think you won't add as much information before you want to do the Thieves Town, the back of Thieves Town especially. I mean, at this point I had no choice and figured out that, I mean, at the end, Bumbles was there.
Yeah,
But
if I
could,
you found that before the ice rod.
at this point, I mean, I don't think I would have gone into TR after getting the ice rod if I got had gotten the ice rod first. I would still checked down there.
Well, so moving on towards the the future for the team. I mean, this is a 5th win for the last locationers and a commanding lead of 2 wins over the rest of the division. Are we expecting to see you in the next game week, or do we know which matches that you'll be taking part in from here on out?
I mean, next week is spoilers. I mean, in 2 weeks because of SG Live. We're gonna meet, like, we're all part of that. I mean, our next opponents, we should be favored because it's more like execution based.
And they commit major mistakes, right?
I mean, it's hard to. I mean, you could do major mistake in spoilers, but it's kind of hard, even.
I don't know. I just thought the name was kind of coincidentally funny.
Yeah, I mean, next week, I think we are favored, but the last 3 weeks of league gonna be a bit tougher. Especially Mystery Week. Like, I know, I mean, our team knows Never Do Chickens a lot, and it's gonna be very fun because, like, we're all friends, and we know each other's play style. Like, we discuss a lot about the routing and stuff, so we know how they play. I mean, Wolfie not that much, but I don't know who they're gonna send, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna send Drag. I mean, I think we're kind of trying to have Goomba and Drag face again.
Hey, it's a marquee race. Well, I feel like I've taken a lot of this interview space up here. Ben, did you want to ask any questions of our winner?
I was curious, early on in the race, you opted to put off Keck Village until later and do the water walk play into Ice Rod Cave, and we were speculating if that was a move tailored to your opposition or if that's more of a standard play for you in this mode.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was distracted.
We were trying to figure out basically what the rationale was between avoiding Kakariko so much early, and as Ben mentioned, doing so many water walk checks.
Okay, so in regular modes, the reason I would go to Kakariko first is that I don't want to be screwed by boots being in Kak. But hey, we have them. So I the reasoning behind that is just now that we have boots, I think it's fine skipping Kak for now, because you can get stuff that would make your Kak trip better, like the flute that I got in Waterfall Fairy, so you won't have to come back for Kak a second time just to activate it. You're basically trying to get something out of those checks. I mean, flute is ideal. A bottle is good as well. Sometimes, even if you get the powder, like if the hammer is in Kak, you're like, okay, I can check that because I got the powder before I got into Kak. You're trying to get something. And the checks I did, aside from skipping Zora, I mean, Zora is fine. In my opinion, it's not that bad to come back to because there are other ways than fake flippers to get back to it. So leaving it, especially with a water walk, like you're just getting those bad checks out of the way. Looking at Hobo and Ice Red Cave, and you can do also what I did, mini mold them into a Gina, so you can basically not orphan a Gina. And that's the reasoning behind that early water walk into Ice Red Cave, is that I can route into a Gina. Sometimes you have to adapt as well, because you can get an early book or something. And this time I got an early flute, but so I didn't do the mini moldum into a Gina. But if I didn't get the flute, I mean, as soon as I got the flute, like I can go to Kak, it's fine. But if I didn't get the flute, the following play would have been to do mini moldum into a Gina, and then gone to Kak.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of long-term thinking in terms of how you approach these things, and yeah, more efficient Kakariko definitely does a lot more for you. And you don't know if you're going to find that flute, So I mean, the fact that you made that decision rewarded, and then like you mentioned, potentially getting a bottle, any of these other things. Yeah, there's a lot more to a Link to the Past randomizer. Open mode, standard mode, all of these things than just going straight to Kakariko, and it's nice to see that on display here in week 3 of the league. That was exciting. Well, folks, do you have any other thoughts on the seed that you'd like to share before we kind of do our speed gaming wrap up and all that stuff? I'll take that as a probably not. So, folks, if you're looking for more randomizer action, we do have more races on the docket for today. In fact, quite a lot. There are a ton of matches going on, so many that we actually don't even have enough coverage for it. But as far as the next race on Speed Gaming, there's actually 2 more on this channel for the next. There's a lot more on this channel. At 2:10 p.m. Eastern, you're going to see the spoilers represented by Dr. Mardio versus Triple Dino Disaster with Yoshi, or Ayoshi, depending on how you pronounce that. Later on, 7:10 p.m., Yutang Clan with Solski up against the Immortals with Jolo Ninja, as well as A10 on SG2. Did you check your boot with Werfjig up against WJP DTB Willard J. Bradley? And more matches on Speed Gaming at 8:40, SG3 9:10, and SG4 at 9:10 as well.
Absolutely. Plenty more Link to the Past Randomizer League fun to come, both today and in the weeks to come. Big thanks to both our runners for putting on a great show. Make sure to give them a follow with the exclamation R command in the chat. They put themselves out there for our entertainment. Big thanks to our trackers, our restreamers, all those people behind the scenes at the Speed Gaming Network that make all of this possible.
Well, I think that just about does it for us today. I want to echo the same sentiments. Big thanks to our tracker today, 2D Tones, and of course Ben as well for joining me. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, despite some of the linearity of the second half of this, nice to have somebody who's got more wit than me on the mic.
I don't know if I'd take it quite that far, but definitely fun during those slow moments to have somebody to have some fun with. So thank you so much.
Well, let me put it this way: I have to take it that far because you definitely outsparred me on that one. Well, until next time, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Follow the runners. Follow Speed Gaming channels. That's the best way for you to get all the race action. I've been Diamonistic, joined today by Ben Creighton. I will see you guys next race.
Bye, everybody.